Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an excellent game to share with you from the 2011 Tata Steel Tournament, Group A Division. On the white end, Magnus Carlsen, playing against Wang Hao. Alright, on board, Caro-Kann Advance Advanced Variation with Bishop f5. An early emphasis by Carlsen on queenside development puts the bishop immediately on e3, eyeing the c5 pawn break. And the queen knight goes to d2. Note the flexibility Carlsen retains with the c-pawn. In some cases it goes one step. It may want to go one step, securing white center. Other times two, striking black center. The knight from d2 supports this energetic c4 advance. I'll share a line shortly where c4 is a very good move. But for now, it's piece play. Knight d7, king knight out, bishop falls back. f5 is now vacant for the king knight. A couple paths into that square. Also, should the center become volatile, c5, capture on d4, knight recapture, the bishop's out of reach of that knight. Alright, from here, bishop e2, and play now follows with knight e7. Here's an example where c4 can be very strong. If black plays c5, there you go, c4. Very good move. In general, this is welcome news for white, creating all of this tension in the center. After all, white's just a step away from castles, and black is completely underdeveloped on the king side. What would you do now as black? We'll have a brief look at these two captures, as well as a couple knight moves. First of all, there's this serious threat, really, of a capture on d5, and if black has to recapture with the pawn, that would mean this guy increases in value. There's always this potential then for e6. Super disruptive move. So let's consider, if you capture here on d4, let's say black goes pawn grabbing. Here's how quickly it could be terrible for black. This is already a winning position. Queen a4 check. What do you do about it? Block with the queen, run into bishop b5. Block with the knight, allow bishop f3. Completely winning position here for white. An alternative to this c4 move, let's say knight here, trying to hold on to this point with pieces, well, c5 falls. Not enough support for that anymore. Similarly, developing the knight blocks the bishop and take on c5 again. How bad can this really turn out? Here's an extreme situation. Let's say you take on c4. Invite this knight into the most sensitive square. Watch out. You might just get mated after 10 moves. Smothered mate. Okay, in short, keep in mind this aggressive c4 play. From here, it is knight e7. Another option, knight h6. This would, say I'm okay taking on these double isolated pawns. A direction we could certainly go here. What is the difference between these two knight moves? This is revealed in this game right away. With knight e7, this gives Carlsen a window of opportunity to hunt the light square bishop. The queen no longer sees h4. The knight's in the way. So, knight h4. If the knight is on h6, this is a blunder. Okay. White's going to be successful tracking down the light square bishop. Now black continues with c5. In this case, appropriate is to reinforce the center. If you try to react with c4, in this case, it's not good. Reason being, black has one more piece in the mix. In this situation, the knight is developed securing this center point, and this knight has drifted away from the center. There's less control over the center here by white. Black would be able to continue in this case, capture on d4, knight c6, and is doing really well. Targeting e5, targeting the bishop, don't forget about the knight. Okay. Appropriate, c3. Follow-up, knight c6. The computer recommends something different. It says play knight f5. and put some pressure on the bishop in the center. Best says to take the knights like this. All right. In our game, it is knight c6. Now, I'm drawing attention to these two moves here, knight f5 and knight c6, for a reason. At the end of the video, when I show the graph, we're going to note that it's a very gradual improving game for Carlsen. He improves his position, it seems, just inch by inch, and it's going to be very soon for me difficult to recommend some other path for black. Like, where exactly? It's one of these games where it's like, where did I go wrong? Where did black go wrong? How can black make improvements at this point? Once we get to move 12, let me say it like this. Wang Hao might as well have been playing against Stockfish. We're going to see an almost really just a flawless execution of a plan by Carlsen. Okay, in this game it's knight c6. Now knight takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, knight f3, and play continues here with rook to c8. So after rook c8, white's able to castle. Can black try to do anything to target the white king before castles is in there? Let's look at some captures here. For instance, this capture on d4, followed up with a bishop check. Are we worried about this check as white? We're not. We don't even have to block with a piece here. White would be fine playing this position uncastled. White is just 2 moves out from having an optimal king post. This is no problem. Nor is queen b6 a problem. How white can continue here? Queen c2 to defend the b pawn. Careful where you go with the queen. d2, no good. You always want to be able to meet this capture with a pawn recapture, but in this case, you're going to get hit with the pin and win of the queen. So this would be a fine way to defend the b pawn. No problems, really, in this case here, in the cases of a capture on d4, bishop b4, or queen b6. In this game, it's rook c8, Carlsen castles, and how would you continue from here? What would be your plan? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, Carlsen plays really the rest of the game like Stockfish. His plan is to play with h5, put pressure on g6. Now, if you didn't come up with this idea, how can you maybe in the future? What are some things you can look to? Do you phone a friend, consult with your coach, or talk with your pieces and pawns? Call a team meeting with your pawns. They are telling you something, drawing a line from the base of your pawn chain to the head of the pawn chain. They're saying head right, play on the king side. That's one way you can look at it. You won't always have a pretty pawn chain like this, however. In other cases, you can simply identify your furthest advanced pawn. Where does it live? Kingside. Play on that side of the board. Also, your unopposed bishop, white's unopposed bishop in this case, the light square bishop is telling you something. I want to see you break down black pawns that are on light squares because I want to have more possibilities. h5 is a step in that direction. The other pawn break, f4 would be f4, f5 would be much more difficult to get in. Black has a nice grip over that square. F pawn advance would be very weakening to white. h5 is really the way to go. Okay, let's see this in action. a6, g3, bishop e7. Note, g3 is not just met with king g2. There may be a possibility here of g5, now that there's a battery, so he first flicks in h4, snuffs out any possibility of g5. Slight move order detail there. Follow up b5. a4. Again, this idea. Apply pressure to black pawns on light squares, trying to extend the scope of the bishop. In the game, it's queen b6. If black plays b4, there goes the a pawn. Okay, queen b6 it is. AB, thank you very much. I have an open file for my rook. Back on with the kingside play. King g2, c4. Okay, what other option does black have here? If, let's say, you capture on d4, white takes with the pawn, keeps the knight boxed out, and there's no fear of some coordination on c2. It's easily offset. Rook c1, no problems here for white. In this game, black chooses c4, knight g5. There we go, 2 pieces opened up to the h5 square. Queen goes back home. Bishop g4 right around the corner. Possibilities of a sacrifice on e6 or even queen f3 targeting f7. The knight is captured right away. Bishop takes, queen's got to go somewhere else. c7 it is. Rook h1. Knight b6. h5. Again, not much you can do about this plan. It's happening. Pawn takes. Bishop takes. Knight a4. In comes sacrifice. Bishop captures f7. Now, if black tries to defend against this sacrifice in a different way, for instance, knight d7, here's how white can continue. Simply withdrawing the bishop. There's, with these 2 pieces here, a big disconnect between the rooks. White's going to take over control of the h-file now. So what do? Rook takes rook, queen takes. I mean, look at how beautiful this position is. Both major pieces on the only open files, 2 bishops staring down the black position. All of these pieces feel like they're in a cage. Okay, an alternative for black in this position, crawling up into a ball, look out. Queen's going to sweep in very soon. Completely winning position for white. Okay, in this game it is knight a4, at least clogging up the a file, applying some pressure to b2, but the sacrifice is there. Bishop takes f7, excellent. If you take with the queen, the rook falls. So he takes with the king. They are at least connected now, but now the follow-up, the only winning continuation, queen f3 check. The king goes to g8 in this game. If the king goes to g6, a star follow-up move here would be bishop f6, preparing to sacrifice bishop number 2. It's poison. It would be poison. That's mate. And there's also the threat to simply give a check and smash through now on g7 with the bishop on that square. No good move here for black. We could have a quick look at a couple moves. Let's say the rook goes here, trying to defend this. That's short-lived. You can always first take and give a check. King here, you're going to lose the queen in a couple moves. And if the king goes here, you're going to lose the king in just a few moves. Check and checkmate next. Anything else? Let's say in this position, after bishop f6, there's first rook captures rook, and then rook here. Well, you get mated right away. Okay. In our game, the check is met with king g8. Follow up, rook takes rook, king takes rook, rook check, queen h5. Follow up here is rook to f8. What other try is there for black? Let's say this knight tries to save the day, drifting towards the king side. And that's not going to help. You can always swipe the knight, because on the recapture, this rook is now unprotected, and there's a skewer for white. And the rook is going to fall. Okay, in this game, it's rook f8. Final move of this game, bishop f6, offering up a second bishop. Black doesn't accept the sacrifice. Instead, just resigns. That's how powerful this final move is. We're increasing the pressure on g7. We're trying to influence the g7 pawn with this last move. If pawn takes bishop, you're going to lose the queen to a check, another check, and she's toast. What other option would black have here? This is not helping. Similar idea, right around the corner. Anything else? Let's say the queen steps over like this. Or actually, let's have a look at this knight move first. Here's how you can continue. Check, check, and this is overwhelming. There's no defense of the knight in this position. Knight doesn't even have a move to defend the queen. Can't pivot on d5 here. So the knight's a goner. It reads a checkmate in 7 from here. One final continuation. Let's say the queen goes here. We could tighten the screws. Queen g6. Pawn is now pinned. No worry if pawn takes bishop lines. Queen f7, it's mate right away. I don't know. Let's say knight takes b2 here. Good as any, I guess. Rook h7 can follow. Piling up on g7 with then queen h5, mate right around the corner for white. Queen watching over that f7 square. Bishop watching out over the e7 square. Gone for team black here. But after this cool final move, bishop f6, black resigns. So what did you think of this one? Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.